Good morning, everybody. We're going to start with Chapter 1 in Anatomy and Physiology. We're going to cover in Chapter 1 the discipline of anatomy and physiology, how they are interrelated. We're also going to cover the organization of the human body, so the different parts of the body and how they are labeled. We'll talk about characteristics given to all living things and the concept of homeostasis. So in section 1.1, at the end, you should be able to identify the definition for anatomy and for physiology. You'll also be able to see the importance of anatomy and physiology being taught together because they are so interrelated. You can't have the function without the structure, and the structure alone doesn't allow for the organism to survive. It needs its function as well. And so anatomy, defined, is the study of form or structure. And in human anatomy, we're talking about the study of the human body. So the structure of the human body. What is it made of? How do those parts come together? And here is a figure of the human body and the digestive tract, okay? Anatomists would look at this and look at the relationship amongst the different regions of the digestive tract. The mouth, the esophagus, the stomach, the small intestines, the large intestines, as well as all of the accessory structures. So the pancreas, the gallbladder, the liver, in our mouth, our tongue, our teeth, our salivary glands. That's what we're looking at for anatomy. How are they put together? What are their structures? And then physiologists are going to look at this in a totally different way. They're going to look at how the function occurs. So for human physiologists, they're looking at how body functions occur. And for physiologists studying the GI tract, they'd be looking at how normal function of the GI tract occurs, and then they might look at how abnormal function occurs when structure is damaged. And so for a physiologist, the GI tract would look more like this, where they're looking at ingestion, mechanical digestion, propulsion, chemical digestion as well as mechanical digestion, more propulsion, absorption of nutrients, and then release of waste products. So structure and function are inseparable. If we want to understand the human body, we have to study structure and function together, which is how we study it in our school. At every school I've ever taught at, we've always studied it together. If the structure is not correct, then the function is not going to be correct. And if the function isn't correct, then typically the structure has been damaged. So structure and function work together. And in this little drawing, which I did not draw, you can see the wheels are not structured properly. These wheels are square. It'd be really hard to pull this cart filled with these, it looks like circular or round wheels, on the square-wheeled cart. So structure's incorrect, it's not going to function right. Now if we change the structure, we can change the function. So here it's structured properly. And with this structure, we're actually going to be able to allow the cart to be pulled easily. Maybe not easily, they still look like they're pushing it, but because the wheels are round, they're now going to function properly. Structure determines function. Another way to say it is function follows form. You are going to get this in your head. By the end of the semester, everybody's going to know structure determines function. Those are 3 words that everyone in my class understands by the end of the semester. There are a lot of fields in anatomy and physiology. In anatomy, we have microscopic anatomy, where we're studying cells or tissues. These are microscopic, which is why you're using a microscope to see them. You can see macroscopic, you can study macroscopic anatomy. So up here, macroscopic anatomy, we're doing system anatomy, which is how we teach system anatomy of the endocrine system. Down here, we could teach system anatomy of a region, and that would, or not system anatomy, I'm sorry, regional anatomy. And this is typically associated with upper level courses where you're studying all the structures in one region. So this would be the tarsal region, and they might look at the blood vessels, the nerves, the bones associated with this one region, the tendons, everything. We can also study comparative anatomy. So here's an example of comparative anatomy where we have the same bones on multiple organisms. So we're all mammals, and we have this ulna and radius, ulna and radius, ulna and radius, ulna radius, and ulna radius, and how they work. A lot of times this is how we determine if there are certain chemicals that could cause problems with us, is by studying the comparative anatomy and comparative physiology, using a chemical on another non-human animal that is similar to us and seeing how it affects them before we put it on the market. Embryology is the study of development. So the structure of the study of the development of a structure. So this would be neuroembryology, how the neural tube develops. Here's at 25 days, 40 days, 50 days, 100 days, and here's at 9 months, the fully formed, not fully developed, but a fully formed brain. We could study pathological anatomy, where we're looking at how disease has changed the structure. So this is actually a disease called flesh-eating disease, and it definitely changed the anatomy. And we can study the radiographic anatomy. So looking at internal structures using techniques that allow us to identify either the harder structures internally, or there are other techniques we can use to study softer tissues. So MRIs and ultrasounds can be used to study soft tissues as well. Physiologists focus on the function of these different structures. And so there are a lot of subdisciplines here as well. You can be a cardiovascular physiologist, a neurophysiologist, a respiratory physiologist, or a pathophysiologist, where you're studying the relationship between the normal function of the systems and then how disease or injury affect the functions of those systems. And so here are different branches for each of anatomy and physiology. This is from your textbook. And at this point, you should be able to you finished section 1.1, and you can now do some checkpoint questions. These are questions at the end of each section. And so I would like you to answer the first checkpoint questions. There are 2 of them. When you answer these questions, use complete sentences and proper grammar. I will be looking at these to make sure that you are writing correctly using college level writing. Place your answers in a Word document and save it in under the following name: your last name, then chapter 1, then checkpoint. And you're going to do this throughout the entire chapter. You'll be saving more and more checkpoint questions, and then you will send these checkpoint questions to my Dropbox on Moodle, okay? I do hope that you've enjoyed the first section of Anatomy and Physiology, and come back soon for the second section, because your first exam will be here before you realize it. Bye.